Welcome aboard, cruisers. I'm DB from Eat Sleep Cruise, and we've just returned from a media trip on Viking Expedition, Viking's newest ship, and we're here to answer all your questions. And to join me is a good friend who was also on the trip from Cruise Addicts. Please welcome John Shallow.
Hey, DB. Great to see you again. We're not in New York City. We just saw each other in New York City, and here we are virtually visiting, but it's so good to see you again.
It is, and one day we'll actually do one of these lives without one little technical glitch. The timer went twice for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but no, it's good to see you too. I got my parka on. I'm ready to talk about Viking Expeditions. Folks have questions about Viking Expeditions, please leave them in the comments. We're happy to answer them. We got to spend a lot of time on that ship, right, John?
Yes, I'm going back to my daily program. It's day one. I'm starting over again. I want to go back.
Oh, I would love to go back. I go back in a heartbeat. So again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Maybe before we get started, talk a little bit about our experiences. It was a 9-night cruise in the Caribbean, and I know that's not necessarily where the ship would typically be, a vessel like this, but why don't we start with like maybe one or two things that surprised you about this ship, John, and then we can see what other folks have to say or ask.
You know, I'm not necessarily surprised, but I guess what I really loved about it the most was just it was gorgeous. You know, I mean, my initial response was, this is just a beautiful, and I don't use the word gorgeous very much, but that just sums it up. It's just a gorgeous ship. I thought it was a great combination of the intimacy of the river product, if you're a river cruiser with Viking, and then you had this expedition vessel with, you know, a very low number of passengers, but you have, you know, a great number of crew. So you had the intimacy of a river cruise with many of the amenities of the ocean product. So I thought it was a great mixture of the two. And of course you had the Viking product with so much beautiful artwork on board Don, and I could go on, and I know you've got videos out and I've got videos to follow. Hopefully you've all followed both of our social media. Please go to Cruise Addicts, please go to Eat Sleep Cruise. Take a look at the photos while you're listening to us. If you're watching a replay of this, you have to see the artwork. The big surprise was that hidden space that we found. You remember that?
The aptly named the Hide. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, was that the cool? I think that was the coolest place on board. I loved how it really felt like you were in this hidden, mysterious place. There were people talking about it all during the cruise, and we really loved it. It was very warm and intimate, and it has this speakeasy theming around, you know, down there, where it was just a great place. And I think with some rough weather, or, you know, you'd have this great vantage point, right, being in the bow. I mean, you don't get to be in the bow of a ship very often to have that, I mean, ever. So I could talk all day, but I'll throw it back to you. What were you surprised with, you know, when you got on board?
Yeah, listen, you could talk all day. I'll just sit and listen, because I agree with half the things you're saying. And I love, you know, very knowledgeable person, been on so many cruises, so many different cruise lines at Cruise Addicts. So I do think, like you said, it's an interesting combination of the river cruising aspect and the ocean. And I know you've been, how many river cruises have you been on? You've been on a few, right?
Yeah, 3 total.
3, okay. So we haven't really even done one. We did like a baby one, right?
Yeah, I did baby, so I was counting that as a third because I was just wanting some cool points there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's, listen, no, you could have 30. No one's going to.
So 2 and a baby, how's that?
2.5, so 2 and a baby. So we only got a half. We got the baby one, but we've been on 2 full ocean cruises. So that's more our frame of reference. And I would say that for sure, it's like, I think someone mentioned it as a mini ocean ship. And that's kind of what it is. It has a lot of the same venues that you find on the ocean ships, but they're smaller and they're reconfigured interestingly. But the Hide is one of the newer venues, and it is this speakeasy bar, like John said. And I think it's probably the best new venue on the ship, minus the Hangar, which we'll talk about that when we talk about some of the features of the ship, that it's really built for the polar regions. But I agree with you that it was beautiful. And what really surprised me, I think, the most was they were able to kind of put everything together on a ship that only holds, I think, 378 passengers. So it's definitely not like their ocean ships that hold a little under 1,000 people, right?
Yeah, it was very intimate, but you really didn't feel like it was smaller. It had this big ship feel, on a smaller vessel. I think another surprise was I knew we were supposed to get into some weather. I think you'd actually told me one of the scientists on board said there was a cold front coming down, and I'm like, wow, we're going north. Anytime you go north and you're actually in the ocean, it's really going to test the hull of a ship. That was one of the smallest ships I'd ever been on, and so, but I got to tell you, it was really smooth for the most part. It just that new hull that the Viking Octantis has was really smooth, a great ride. So I can't say enough good things about it. Really impressive.
No, I agree, definitely. And actually, so a question from Michelle on Facebook. Thank you, Michelle. Other folks who have questions about our experience, the ship or Viking in general. We've been on Viking Ocean. John's been on Viking Ocean and Viking River as well. So what was it on board in terms of comfort? So that's a great question, because there are a lot of venues that are designed for you to enjoy the outdoors, but not necessarily experience them. And the hide is one in the bottom of the ship. But I would say that they have the living room and the explorer's lounge, which are both found on ocean ships, with the way they're designed, right? So you can look right out the front of the ship, and you can be right next to the bar, nice and warm, all this glass in front, and you can still see the beautiful vistas. But what did you think of as far as kind of those finishes inside?
Oh, I loved it, and I think you got to start right when you get on board, where you spend the most time is in your cabin. And the Nordic balcony, I've seen a Nordic type balcony, and what we're talking about is a balcony that's enclosed that has a window that kind of goes up. You press a button and it actually rises up and it secures, and then you can put it down, so you can actually get exposed to the elements. And of course, we were in the Caribbean, so as we're sailing in the morning into the Caribbean with these beautiful vistas, you can actually just roll that window down electronically. You push the button, and it's kind of like a new car. You have to get used to it, but you can actually push the button and it would take it down to a safe spot. And if you want to lower it more, you had to push it again and kind of hold it down. But that actually was very comfortable. It allowed the outside to come in. But of course, in colder climates and whatnot, like we got to New York, it was very cold the morning that we sailed in. But I was able to roll it down, take some great video and whatnot. And so it was perfect. So we got to kind of see it in the warm weather and use that. And that's just another example of some of the comfort. Of course, the rest of the room was really nice. The bed was very comfortable. The bathrooms, you have the heated floors, the heated mirrors that Viking's so known for. Beautiful shower with a lot of water pressure. Viking's all about the little details. And, the chairman, Torstein Hagen, is very detail oriented, and we've listened to his talk on board. And that's what makes the Viking product so unique and so different than many other products out there. It really does set itself apart with all these little details that really come from the chairman all the way down into every product. And I think that's another thing is we could go on and on with this question. What a great question from Michelle. But there's so much, there's so much comfort. There's so many details. And when Viking says explore the world in comfort, they really mean it. And now they've taken it to an expedition vessel. And one thing I wanted to talk about with expedition vessels, it wasn't long ago that when you heard expedition vessels, Don, what came to mind? What came to mind to me was you had these old scientific research vessels, these thick-hulled research vessels that would explore, that could actually go into the Arctic Ocean, and they were very basic. We're talking, old scientific research. They weren't really purpose-built for the Arctic or Antarctic region. Now you have luxurious, comfortable, everything purpose-built from top to bottom, and now these products exist. And of course, Viking Octantis being the first from Viking Cruises. So we could go on and on, and I'll stop there, I think. But it was, things have changed, and here we are.
Yeah, I know. Listen, we could. Great question, and there's also, I think Michelle asked about the off-ship experience, so we can bring that question up. But I do have to bring up, you mentioned the bathrooms, which are amazing. And you mentioned the water pressure, but you forgot about the two big elements, especially for Antarctica. They have the heated floors, right? The heated tile floors in the bathroom, and heated towel racks. So you come in from a cold day exploring and you want to take a nice hot shower, you don't have to worry about your room's going to be nice and toasty. And those, I know the wife loves those heated floors and the heated towel rack. And they even have a drying rack closet, right? That's separate from the main closet where you store other stuff. So if you come in with the gear, and if you do go on an expedition cruise, they provide you with a lot of the gear you need. So you don't have to worry about overpacking. And they have that separate closet with your life preservers that are specially made. So they have like thermal lining in them. So they're specially made for these regions, but it's all separate and it's nice and clean and dry. So yeah, they think of every little touch they can when they design the ships. They, as you said, they spare no expense, right?
No, every little detail. You don't have to bring extra anything. They're going to have it right there for you, and it's so nice. It's just another step of the Viking inclusiveness, and they've taken it now to the expedition product.
No, for sure. So, question here, Michelle asked about the off-ship experience. So, not exactly sure exactly what she means, but I can say that we did get to do test out some of the toys, right, that are on the ship that are specifically designed to get you closer to the action. And I'll let you talk about, maybe the more unique one, or definitely the more expensive one. So they have special operation boats, right, John? And these boats are designed to kind of take you around to see the scenery. Obviously, it's a small ship, around 30,000 gross tons. So it can get pretty close to locales, but especially if you're in Antarctica or some of these more protected regions, even a ship that small can only go so far. So these military grade ships that hold, I think it's 12. It's 2x2. I want to say it's 5 or 6 rows. So not a lot of people. And we got to test run this in St. Kitts, where they took us around on like a coastal cruise. And we got to see the power and maneuverability of these vessels. And I can just imagine if you're in the Arctic or Antarctica, where these ships are really showcase these things, that you get to use these. It's totally included in the cruise fare. Another inclusion, these shore excursions are free or part of it. Of course, you have to sign up in this limited space, but they do offer this experience. And I can just see it for like whale watching, wildlife sightings. They let you get off further away from the ship and get a little bit closer and experience. So that's one of the cool elements. The special operation boats, or SOB. I didn't come up with the acronym. Don't look at me. And then, John, what was the other thing we got to experience that's maybe even cooler than that?
Well, we didn't have to bring our own submarines because Viking actually has 2, and they're named Paul and John. Was it Sir Paul and Sir John, or just Paul and John? I'm not sure, John.
I think they were just Paul and John. We're on a first name basis. We don't have to go with the knighthood on this one. I'm pretty sure it's just Paul and John, one and two. Also, I think they were numbered, right?
Yeah, but yeah, they actually have 2. Which kind of surprised me. I knew they had 1, but 2, and submarines, and they held 6 passengers each, including the pilot. And we were able to go on board. And what a great experience was that! I mean, we're talking bucket list. Not only do you get to go on the SOB boat, but you also get to go on a small submarine. And of course, we were in the beautiful waters of the Caribbean, and we got to see I saw Barracuda go right by. And just aside from the sights, I think the overall experience was, I mean, when do you get to go on a submarine? So I can only imagine what it'd be like to be in Antarctica or other regions of the world where you get to get below the water, and just being below the water and just experiencing that, it was really, really breathtaking. So I highly recommend that. If you're going on these tours, make sure you register for all these things as soon as you can. It's you can actually do all these things from the Viking website before your cruise. I think they have a time where they open up, and sometimes things open as you get closer. So be aware of that. Don't delay. Don't get on board, expect to do it the last minute, because you might be a little upset that you might have missed out. And you don't want to miss out, especially something that amazing. What impressed you the most, Donna, with the submarine excursion?
I mean, that was really cool, as you mentioned. So I think just the thought that went into saying, like, we're going to do this, we're going to build, have these built, and then it was a lot longer process. I don't know what I was thinking, but I imagined like, okay, we're going to board. Like I figured like they would just drop it near the ship, right? Get on it and sails off. But no, it's really highly regulated. They told us you have to get permits to dive in very specific locations. They have to be a certain distance from the shore and the ship. So you take these Zodiac boats out, and safety first. We had to attend I would say it was definitely a safety briefing, but it was not your typical like, oh, I'm just gonna sit there and not pay attention. Like they went very in depth. Both captains of the submarines were there, the pilots, and they drilled into you that this is going to be a little bit more active than you might expect. That the sea conditions, and then they give you the worst warning of all, right, John?
Yeah,
we're gonna weigh you.
But they did say in kilograms, so most of us we couldn't do the math in our heads, but they only announced it in kilograms. But
Right, right, exactly. I'm like, well, do it in stones. I don't know, but I can do the kilograms in my head. But yeah, they weigh you because they have to balance the vessel just like a helicopter or something similar. But there were definitely people that we know who kind of were like, oh, this doesn't really sound right for me. And if you get claustrophobic, obviously this is a really tight quarters, but they're brand new vessels and they're designed right. That glass is it maximizes it. There's like a zoom almost on it, right? Like a magnifying glass. It's a bubble. Yeah. So I think the closest we got to the seafloor was 1 meter, which is roughly 3 feet, right?
Yeah, it looked like we were right on it though.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that we were touching the bottom, and it was cool. We actually got to do this together. It turns out, but yeah, I mean, but they're very serious about that. Make sure you take off we took off our jewelry because you could scrape the inside of it. They were very serious about people that, if you're on the fence where you're concerned about transferring from the Zodiac to the submarine, there was a little bit of waves, but it was actually really perfect. They have this great handle there, and of course they help you. But if you're worried or have any reservations, they were basically not trying to warn people that if you had any reservations, let's not wait till we get all the way out there and you actually get in the submarine and you have you're claustrophobic, or if you're going to panic or anything like that. But most of us actually, we've been through quite a few things, and I think we're a little concerned after the speech where it was they really did warn everything, and we're all like talking, but it wasn't as bad as we had been, told. It turned out to be a great experience. We felt great about it. We enjoyed ourselves. But I think for the people that, if you have any reservations, it might not be for you because there are some things where it is a little bit tight quarters. So I can see someone might have a concern, might feel a little bit claustrophobic if they don't feel comfortable in a moving Zodiac, going through some waves and then transferring over. There's other really great, exciting things. The SOB boat, Special Operations boat, was incredible. It's like it's the best example is if you've ever ridden a jet ski, how it can turn and stop on a dime. That's really like it is. And then it sits on a air ride. If you've ever sat like an air ride seat in a bus or a semi truck or something like that, where the ride is cushioned, all the seats in the Special Operations boat are on an air ride seat, so you don't feel any waves. It was the smoothest boat ride I've ever taken in my life, and one of the fastest. It was incredible. What a great experience. Of course, in the Caribbean or anywhere else this vessel goes, highly recommend that. Definitely put down for all these things if you're up for the adventure. I think they're doing it in the Viking Comfort, so take a little chance there. Don't hesitate if you have if you're going to book this type of a cruise and you're going to have these opportunities to do these once in a lifetime bucket list adventures. Just go ahead and do it. Like I said, a lot of people had reservations. I think they put the fear into us a little bit, about this and that, but it turned out to be great. And to just touch on the weight, the reason why, Don, I think you were going to get to this, is the reason why they weighed us is they're very serious about the balance and the distribution of weight on the submarine. Otherwise, it could go down and might not go back up. So they're very serious about that. There's a computer program. They tell you which seat you have to go in. Some people got bumped a little bit to other rides because they needed to make sure everything was perfectly balanced and in a certain weighted in a certain order. So you'd be on seat 1, seat 2, 6, whatever. And so it was very serious how they loaded and unloaded. They're very the attention to detail was incredible, and the quality of the Special Operations boat and the submarine, I think, were second to none. I can just say that.
Yeah, no, great. And so we had a shout out for you. I had on there Kurt saying it was glad to see you on our live. You were on the last live we did. We don't do a lot of lives. Hopefully we'll do more. Hopefully folks are finding value in this. So shout out to you. So this is a question for YouTube from MGM Family Travels about the ports. They're available on so it does obviously depend on itinerary and sea conditions. So the Special Operations boat, they only did 1 day on our cruise, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. It was St. Kitts, but they actually have 2 of those as well. So there's 2 special operation boats, and it was about an hour-ish experience. So if you 2 boats, multiple runs, I think everyone who kind of wanted to do it, most people, I should say, wanted to do it, could do it. The submarines, they tried on 3 separate ports of call, and we were in the last one in St. Bart's, right? Oh, well, the last one that ran, I should say. So they tried it 3 times. The first day, they got through a few runs and then canceled it. And then in St. Bart's, we got to do it, right? We were actually the last dive of the day because sea conditions had changed since the morning. And then the next port of call, they were supposed to do a couple, and they didn't even get started, right? That was Virgin Gorda, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about that day was you might remember, we're actually going out in our Zodiac and towards the submarine, and the other submarine, it might have been Paul, was coming back in, and we're like, uh-oh, because there was a that there's a window there. The weather has to be perfect. The waves it can't be too rough, because then it gets too dangerous for everybody involved. It can't be dangerous for the submarine, and it can't be dangerous to try to transfer passengers from the Zodiac to the submarine. Of course, both are moving in the waves, so there's that, and everything has to be perfect. And of course, you have to get permitted. We found that out, that the Viking just can't show up and just put all these wonderful toys in the ocean. They have to actually get permits and get approved by the local authorities, and that can take quite a bit. So it's very interesting. We learned quite a bit about this amazing experience, and the submarine and the special operations boat. Really, really incredible. I hope that we can, as we see Don and I's videos and photos, that it really brings these things to life and how incredible they are, and that you can experience on your Viking expedition cruise. So really, we could keep talking. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, well, I just want to echo Michelle's things, like 2 subs. Yeah,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the chairman doesn't mess around. If he's going to spend the money to build the hangar, where these are placed. So this is a 7-figure section internal marina in the ship that I think is one of the only out there for expedition vessels, as you mentioned earlier, John. It's purpose built for this. It's not some old research vessel that they bought and tried to reconfigure. It's brand new. And this internal marina, so you actually dock in the special operation boats, and then they back you out, right? And it almost feels like an amusement park ride, like when you're riding the roller coaster and you're slowly going down and you're anticipating it. But it's uniquely designed just for Viking Octantis and Viking Polaris. So again, totally, I felt totally safe, but they do a good job of briefing you and warning you. And if you get to do them, please do them. And I believe too, depending on the type of cabin you have, you can book at different times, right? Doesn't Viking usually say, if you're in a little bit better cabin, they give you a little bit advance notice as far as, hey, you can book your shore excursions this date, and if you're different cabins, it's a little bit later. But as soon as you can book it, right?
Yeah, and I know, I remember they were saying that this is the first expedition vessel to ever have anything like this. The hangar is something totally unique to Viking, and the reason why is no one's ever spent this kind of money on such an amazing area. Totally unique, totally special for Viking, because they want to, when they say explore the world comfort, it's just not a tagline, because they're bringing these unique experiences, and they're making it comfortable and accessible, because the old ways are very difficult, where you just step off the side of it's not easily done. You're in the Arctic Ocean, you're in the Great Lakes, you're in the Caribbean on a moving vessel that's susceptible to the seas. So how do you make this accessible? The hangar, where you can have 2 bays for 2 submarines to be launched at the same time, and 2 special operations boat literally go out hydraulic ramps right out the back, through a hatch. Incredible. And every little detail was designed and created by Viking, so you could explore the world in comfort. It sounds like a tagline. I sound like an infomercial here, but it's so true, isn't it?
Well, it's true. Little infomercially, but we'll let that slide. So, okay. But let's touch on that, because we did mention some other aspects. So there is a lot of stuff just built on the ship. So if you're like, special operations boat, not for me, totally respectable, because it is pretty intense. You kind of sit in this lifted chair, right? This hydraulic chair. You sit on it, and you have these bars. Yeah. And you have to wear your life jacket at all times. So, and you have the high-tech life jacket that are designed that they actually are pressurized, so they don't inflate until something happens, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But there's a lot of stuff right on the ship, right, that you don't even need to leave the ship and still get to enjoy a lot of things around there. So on the back of the ship, they have one of the coolest areas, I think, is their theater, the aula, right, that is designed to have 270 degrees of glass in the back. So it doubles as a theater with all the stuff you'd expect Viking to have. Documentaries, they have lectures, port talks, but then it can open up. So they have the screen and it's a 4K screen and they can show stuff, but then it opens up and you just look out the very back of the ship. So you can still see a lot of great stuff just sitting right there in the comfort of the Aula with a coffee or water, or maybe a beer, and you can just still experience everything, right? So you don't even have to take advantage of some of those other things if you didn't want to.
Yeah, and they had the welcome, the captain welcomes aboard the first night, I believe it was, and we got to meet the entertainment director.
Entertainment manager, but same thing.
Yeah, and he did some beautiful singing. He had the most amazing voice, really, really incredible. And so he also had a performance, and they also were having another entertainment manager coming on board, and he did a show as well. So beautiful vocal performances by both the entertainment managers. And then the last night, or night before the last night, they actually had a goodbye toast. And so as you walked into the venue, they would actually give you champagne. So everybody had that available. Just those little touches where you get to enjoy these spaces, be it a documentary, or in this case, a vocal performance, or a where they're talking about the briefing with the submarines and either welcome aboard or the goodbye toast by the captain. Really, really great.
Yeah, and that's one interesting thing we didn't expect. Obviously, the Aula we expected, but having been on Viking Ocean and knowing that, listen, Viking's all about the destination, right? They're not going to try to have all these crazy bells and whistles, or I think the chairman calls them like distractions. But there was a couple shows during 9 nights, and then they even did a game show. I don't know if you went to the Liars Club. They did one night with the entertainment manager and some of the Expedition Central's one of the expedition staff and the singers. So there was a little more cruise than you usually get with Viking, I thought, on this trip. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was really, really cool. I love that. Had so much available. And the excursions were very, one thing about, and I think Michelle was kind of asking about the off ship experiences. I don't know if you want to talk about excursions, other excursions, but they definitely had, because this was an expedition vessel, the excursions had more hikes available. They had really more challenging experiences, even in the Caribbean. And so I know a lot of the guests enjoyed that. Some were a little surprised at different times, but I think overall it was definitely some challenging, definitely some expeditionary type of experiences, even in the Caribbean. But of course, once you came back on board, and really throughout the whole process, you had great comfort and you had great opportunities. I know a lot of times we were whooped after the days, with the heat of the Caribbean and the great food and just keeping busy, that before you know it, it was the next day was coming. And so it was, just like any cruise, there's usually more things to do than you actually can do. So it was nice to be able to try different things throughout the voyage and just experience every little thing when you were ready for it, depending on your daily schedule.
No, that is true. We go to bed early typically, but it did feel like 9:30 would come around.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh, you want to get a drink?" And maybe you get a drink, but you're just kind of like, "That was a long day." And we were, like you said, in the Caribbean. I can imagine if you're in the Arctic or Antarctica or the Great Lakes. The ship's going to the Great Lakes right now, and a really cool itinerary that you get to go to all 5 Great Lakes. I think they're from like Toronto to Duluth, I want to say. I don't remember, but it's a 14, 15-day itinerary, so roughly 2 weeks, and you get to go to all 5 Great Lakes in one trip. I don't know anyone else who offers such an experience like that, but you're going to be exhausted by, like I said, 9 o'clock. So
yeah,
it was. Yeah, I think some people we talked to on tours kind of like, this is not what we thought when we've cruised with Viking before. So
yeah, you're not going to be able to get on this. I mean, I guess you could, but this is an expedition vessel, and I think it kind of caught up with all of us. I think you get this opportunity, and it's an expedition vessel. Then you get on board, you're like, wow, this isn't a you're an active participant in the excursions, and you're going to get out there, and you're going to be able to really get up close with nature wherever you are. It's not easy to be in a Zodiac and transfer to a submarine. It's not easy to do a lot of things that where you're actually doing hikes and whatnot, and you're really getting out there. And that's what we did. And I thought it was just a great experience. I'll never forget it. And it really opened my eyes to this type of travel, expeditionary travel, and really just like my first Viking cruise, where I loved it was a river cruise, where I actually came back and I told people about it. I'm like, you know what? I love the fact, and I really changed the way I travel, especially with river cruising. You know, so many times in the Caribbean, like a normal Caribbean cruise, a lot of stuff you're in a van, you're kind of shuttled around and stuff like that. Viking doesn't really do that. If you're going from point A to point B, it's usually to get you somewhere where you're going to get out of that vehicle, be it a bus or a van, and you're going to get to the city center, and your feet are going to hit that ground, and you're going to do some walking, and you're going to be some talking, and you're going to be in the city center, looking at things, touching things, eating food, and really experiencing things. And this expedition vessel was just the next step, another type of experience that Viking offers. And I really loved it. And I'm really passionate about that type of travel. And it really has changed the way I travel from now on, no matter what cruise line I might be on. Obviously, I enjoy all types of cruise line, but Viking does it great. But I can't sit in the van and, and look out the window, of looking out, I want to get out of the van. I want to walk around. I want to experience things, So, and of course, that's what this was, where we did some beautiful hiking. I went to waterfalls. We went to the baths, Virgin Gorda for the first time. I mean, so many great things. Really enjoyed it. I could keep talking, but wow, it was so great. Even the tour in New York City. I mean, I've got a lot of response to that from my social media. One of the best tour guides took us around, and before my afternoon flight, really good. And yeah, once you're exposed to great cruising and great tours and great experiences, it's hard to go back. It really is. So just like anything in life, once you get the best, it's hard to go backwards.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you touched on it too, is that a lot of these tours, I think we paid for one and ended up canceling it anyway. Most of the tours are included with the cruise fare with Viking. And then what they do obviously offer some additional tours that are maybe a little bit, that are additional money, but maybe a little bit more of an elevated experience. But you don't need to book those. The Virgin Gorda one, actually, we were on that tour. That was included. We did one in St. Lucia that basically took you around to see the highlights, the drive-in volcano, and you got the hike to the Sea of the Pitons, and then the estate. That was all included, and it wasn't. Yeah, you are in a small vehicle to just bust around to get to places, but you're not stuck all day just looking out a window and just saying like, oh, here's this, here's that, right? So Viking really makes sure that the destination's the focus of all their tours and of their trips, right? They're more about the destination than the ship. That's why all the ships are alike. So Octantis is going to have a sister ship, Polaris, and as far as we know, it's a carbon copy, just like a lot of their ocean ships are almost exactly the same, minus one or two little differences. Like some have a planetarium, right? Some don't, but the newer ships the older ones don't. But all the dining's going to be the same. The layout's the same. Roughly the same type of entertainment things, right? They don't want you to be distracted.
Yeah. And I'll talk about a unique tour. I actually did a specialty tour in San Juan, Puerto Rico when we stopped there because I'd been there several times and I wanted to try something really unique. So they had an agri tour where you got to go to a farm and you got to experience. And the cool thing about it is this farm actually had produce from many different farms. So it was kind of like a collective where brought many types of products from all around the island. And they made specialty products for the restaurants. So they had chives that tasted like garlic and onion with like a flour. And we were able to taste all these different products with our own hands and smell it and taste it. And we went throughout the entire farm. We got to meet goats, milk goats, if you were up for that, to try that was really cool. They made cheeses there. We were able to try all the different products. They had fresh salsa, marmalade, the cheeses, really incredible, all right there. They had hydroponics. And then the ending of it, the kind of like the highlight was a traditional Puerto Rican meal made with many of the products that we had actually seen from the farm. Really cool. But the really neat product about it was, or part of it was We got to taste all these different products right there, just picked right off the vine or what have you, or flower, and you could actually taste it and see how you could use it at home or how they were using it in restaurants for their pestos or many specialty dishes. Incredible. And it was a small group, only like 12 people. It was an optional tour. Incredible. Really, really think it was educational. It was informative, and we got to meet like a beautiful family from Puerto Rico. So you have this human experience that I'll never forget. So just another thing, another example of another day where you got out and did something that you didn't know, wouldn't expect to do, and you would never do on another tour normally with maybe a different cruise line.
No, I mean that's what Viking I think specializes in, right? Offering that type of experience that is going to be more intimate, more focused, and more immersive than the other cruise lines. But we could sell all the other cruise lines, and I think some of the cruise lines they're getting the hint that that's what people want. That's what travelers want. Even when you're in a large ship that has thousands of people, you want to get some experience of the destinations you're visiting. And obviously, some do it better, or just they have more experience doing it. So, but that amazing excursion reminded me of something we haven't talked about yet, and that's dining.
Oh,
and I mean, that's why they had to wait. They had to wait me in because I eat too much on the cruise. It's not. It wasn't to balance things out. That was just polite because they took a look at me and they're like, I don't know about that. But so let's talk about the dining, because the dining surprised me in some ways, that in a good way. In some ways where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. So let me start with I didn't expect that with the main dining room.
How's that go?
Huh?
How did that go again?
Sure. We don't need to do my face.
Yeah.
That's an inside joke, folks. But if you join us on enough lives, you'll get in on it.
Yes.
But so the restaurant is on deck one. It's like the main dining room, only open for dinner, and really small. Right? Small. I'm from the New England area. Kind of small. Kind of limited menu. Would you disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I know that you'd kind of touched on it, when you talked, and I think the basic idea, at least we kind of came to our own conclusion, is that the restaurant is smaller than the World Showcase, right? The World Marketplace. That's right, World Marketplace, which is the buffet area, but also has the grill. So just to let you know, the grill, you can have a steak. I mean, they literally grill you all different types of meats, and cook a really wonderful meal for you right there. So you have this kind of like walk up grill experience with amazing choices, aged steaks, aged ribeye, brisket, lunchtime burgers, hot dogs, all types of things. So that's part of the World Marketplace. But then the restaurant, as we all know, is Viking Cruisers from the ocean product. And as Don was saying, it's a little smaller than the World Marketplace. And it's also reservation only. So before you get on your cruise, you might be wondering, why do I have to make reservations? Because on the ocean product, a lot of times you just walk right up. And so what we did learn, and if you want to finish the thought here, Don, because I know you touched on it, but it's a little smaller, and you have to, if you want to eat at the restaurant for every night, if that's what you choose to do, like if you like to always be a sit down dinner in the restaurant, then you would need to make sure you have reservations at that or one of the specialty restaurants like Manfredi's for your cruise. And we found out that that's a little harder than you think, right?
Well, I found out the hard way when we went to try to make reservations. The second night, we did. First night was crazy. A lot of us flew in day of down. It originated in Barbados. Folks didn't know. One way to New York City. Really cool kind of trip. So everyone's exhausted day one. And then day two, the boss, Heidi, is like, oh, well, let's go to the dining room. Go see if you need reservations. Went down there and they're like, oh, just no walk-ups. You definitely need reservations. And, oh, by the way, you can't eat there tonight. Oh, and by the way, I don't think there's any more reservations left for the entire cruise. We're going to have to talk to a manager. But that was smoothed out. We were able to eat there. I think we ended up making a total of 4 reservations over 9 nights because, as John mentioned, there's also the alternative restaurant. I'll talk about that in a minute. And there is a pretty good buffet. But for those who follow us, we almost never eat at the buffet. especially for dinner. Like we almost never eat there for dinner. Breakfast, maybe lunch a couple times. So the fact that we ate there at least I think 3 or 4 times for dinner is definitely probably most like 3 times for dinner. A little atypical for us, but yes, if you want that kind of more traditional sit down 3-course meal in the main dining room, then make your reservations pre-cruise or day one and strap in, because the times we went there, it was definitely a 90-minute plus kind of very formal service. Great service, very personable, but definitely a long experience, right?
Yeah, I think I actually only went one time with you.
Oh, you only went the only time you ever made it to a restaurant was with us?
Yeah, and then I went to Manfredi's twice, and the other nights were in the World Marketplace. And the grill, the first night I ate the grill, really, really good. Their aged steaks, I mean, incredible. It looks like you're at this beautiful steak house with all the meat on display, lobster tails with it. I mean, you can pick and choose. I mean, grilled vegetables, you know, baked potato, incredible. And then, of course, the buffet itself is really unique. So, and to touch on the World Marketplace, I kind of want to go back a little bit too. One of the benefits of the World Marketplace, it's almost like a food hall feel.
Mm-hmm.
They have this beautiful bakery where they have breads and I want to make sure I say it right, focaccia bread. They change that, so you have focaccia bread, all these different fresh breads, pizza, and then you have the dessert area, and many different areas. You have sushi and also seafood. We're talking king crab legs. Many different types of things. So I could go on about that, but so you have all these different areas, including the grill, including other areas of the marketplace, and then you have the restaurant as well. So a lot of people go there and eat at the marketplace because it's convenient, and we're thinking that that's probably why it's such a big space. Is on an expedition vessel, a lot of passengers are going to be exhausted.
Yeah,
you don't want to get dressed up because there is a dress code that's pretty strict for the restaurant. So people can be a little more informal and more relaxed after a busy day of expedition travel, like I said, which does test you a little bit more than a more casual experience. So we're thinking that's why they did it. But if you're the type of person that wants to sit in the main dining room, have a traditional experience, just make sure you make your reservations in advance and know that they will go. And but as the way we did learn, as the cruise went on, there was more cancellation, and so there's more opportunities to go there.
all is not lost, right? So night 2 it's doom and gloom, and by midway through the cruise you talk to some people. If you go a little bit later, you're a little bit luckier too, so you can do like 8 o'clock. That's when we ate, right, roughly like 8 o'clock or so. You can go there a little bit later. Also, our friend John, who's also from In the Loop Travel, mentioned the World Cafe. He was on the ship. He's got some great video and stuff out there too, some articles regarding Viking Octantis and Viking Expeditions. So check out In the Loop Travel there too. And as John, we get too many Johns now. As John mentioned, the we were informed the World Cafe can basically hold almost everyone on the ship at once if it needs to. So the ship holds like 370. I want to say they told us the capacity is like 360. So they are anticipating that most people are going to come back on board, and they're not going to want to change up and get all dolled up to go to the sit-down restaurants. So that's why it's designed that way. But in the Caribbean, even though you have your hiking and stuff, there were some days you want to go there. And I think even in Antarctica, right? There's probably some nights like, I want to get wined and dined. But great thing about Viking is beer and wine included at meals, even on the expedition ships. And that includes a buffet. So there's waitstaff going to get you, the house wines that are included with the meals, or I like my IPAs. There's an IPA on board. They'll get you a drink or two. So you still can get all of that. And great service, very timely. Come up to you in the buffet for dinner or lunch or whatever, asking you, do you need anything? Do you want anything? And they even customize stuff. So there was no grilled chicken to be had. And we talked to one of the waiters, and he actually talked to the chef, and by I think it was night 3 or 4, they had grilled chicken in the restaurant, in the World Cafe, the buffet. So Heidi could get some grilled chicken for like on a salad or just on the side, instead of the grill had a fried chicken sandwich, which you don't eat so much fried chicken sandwiches in 1 week. But I think that's so those are the surprising things. The buffet is better than you would expect, but it's also kind of where they're pushing you. But that's not to say those are the only casual restaurants. There were a couple other ones, and one of them, I get your take on this, John. Mamson's, the Scandinavian deli, Did you check that at all during our? I know you've eaten there before, but did you try out this version on Viking Octantis?
Yeah, I just have to correct myself. I was saying World Marketplace, but it's actually World Cafe. John said, I'm like, yeah, I'm saying this wrong, aren't I?
Oh.
But it felt like a marketplace because it had this food hall type environment. So I think that's why my brain was trying to rename it. But really, really great. And yeah, I went to Mamson's. I had the pea soup, which Viking's known for on its ocean ships. I finally had that. Really, really good. And of course, they have the many different Norwegian sandwiches there. Really good. Because sometimes what happens is, and just to kind of give you some background and see what you think about this, Don, is the expedition type excursions would leave in the morning. So a lot of times you'd be off ship, like scheduling wise, kind of like the river product, where a lot of things start in the morning. About 8 or 9 o'clock, a lot of people were already starting their morning excursions, pretty much everywhere. And so you would come back, say at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and you may or may not be hungry. Sometimes you're just tired because the heat, and you've been busy, you've been hiking, you've been boating, you've been doing these wonderful experiences. You're not necessarily, and maybe you had a lot of times I actually got room service quite a bit delivered. So I got that a lot. So I'd start my day with coffee and everything right in my Nordic balcony. And then I would leave the cabin and and go and start, and I'd be gone. And I really wasn't hungry enough for a substantial lunch. But around 2 o'clock, I'm like, it's time for something. So I'd go out there, and the Mamsons would be there to answer your question, and just loved it. It was just nice for a nice Norwegian type sandwich, of course, from Korean Hagen's grandmother's recipes. Really, really good, and loved it. And then it was just enough to tide me over for more substantial dinner. How about you?
Yeah, no. So, well, we didn't get as much room service as you apparently, which 24-hour room service, right? And they have the breakfast menu for breakfast hours, and then
And
have an all-day menu that they deliver.
They had a surprise dish I didn't know about. I got to tell you. Can I tell you it?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know.
Southern fried chicken.
Oh, okay.
Really good Southern fried chicken on board with corn on the cob. Really, really good for lunch. Didn't expect to see that, but it was really excellent. I got that one day that I stayed in for lunch.
Making me hungry. We did breakfast once because you can't not get room service breakfast on a cruise, right? You have to have that one day where you're like, deliver it to me. And with the Nordic balcony, like I said, you can open it. And it's like, if anyone's been on the Edge class of ships, Celebrity Edge class, there's their Infinity Veranda. It's essentially what the Nordic balcony is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing. So it opens up. It's like a bigger window, but they have nice dedicated seating there on the Viking ship. And then we got room service that one morning, and it was perfect. Just what we needed for that day. But yeah, John, you're right. Sometimes the only thing open really is the buffet, depending on your schedule. So we did get to Mamson's. We got to Mamson's. A couple times where we didn't have treasures. So we had 3 sea days at the end, and then I think the day we had a later day, or we were supposed to get off the ship and didn't. We did the waffles. You can't go wrong with the waffles at Mamson's, and then the open face sandwiches and the cakes and desserts there. They call them snacks, but I don't know how much of a snack those slices of those, what is this called? Like surprise cake is one of them. That's not a snack.
Success cake is like
success.
It's incredible.
It's a success if you can eat it and then move on with the rest of your day, because it's a little bit dense.
Between Manfredi's and the success cake, that is 2 reasons right there to just book any Viking ocean or expedition ship right there. Just incredible.
I'm not going to disagree. So Mamson's is a great casual option, as you mentioned. The times were a little bit off. It opened, I think, like 8 or 8:30 to 10:30, then closed and opened up again for lunch, but then closed and opened up again for snacks. And so you had to time it right. And
then what to help you out is Mamson's is open when the buffet is not. But
the buffet's open at 8:30 in the morning.
Well, it was kind of like a filler between lunch and dinner. Mamson's would be open where you could actually have a nice meal there, nice something, based on what you wanted. But that's what I kind of noticed. It was almost like a filler to fill any gaps that might be there as far as another option when the full buffet wasn't open. And they also say that
there's plenty of food everywhere.
There's they also have the bakery. They've got cookies and coffees are out and cakes and different things like that. So that's in 24-hour room service as well.
Yeah. No, so there's plenty to eat on the ship. So if you're thinking, Well, you already know this, right? Viking's making these ships specifically for these regions, and they're not sparing expense when it comes to the onboard vehicles and activities. So they're not jipping you on the food either. And let's talk about Manfredi. So there's the restaurant every night. It's open for dinner. Your kind of typical 3-course dinner. Reservations required. And then they don't call them specialty restaurants because it's included. So I like the term alternative that they use, right? So they have one alternative restaurant, Manfredi's, which is an Italian restaurant. Now we both ate there twice, different times. We ate together dinner one night too. But so I know you ate the second time. What'd you have the first time you went to Manfredi's?
I had the ribeye, of course. The bistecca. I can't say it properly, but it's called the bistecca. But it's Manfredi's their specialty. And you think, well, why would you get a ribeye steak at an Italian restaurant when they have fresh pasta? They have all these wonderful dishes there. Everybody loves the ribeye steak. It's aged, it's rubbed with spices. Really, really incredible. Must do. That's why you got to do it 2 nights.
Right.
It's got to do because everything's very filling. You got to get the antipasti. You got to get the.
We don't have to. You just get it.
What?
You said you have to get it. I'm like, we obviously do, but you don't. It's not like they're holding a gun to your head. Like you have to
get it. I'm telling you.
Like you walk in, like, sir, today you're gonna have the antipasti, but no, you're having it.
You have to get it. Yeah.
They're gonna go Guido on you, John. They're gonna go Guido on you.
You have to get it. So you got to do it.
So the second night you had the pasta with us, right? And we all tried a bunch of things that second night, right?
Yeah, the pasta was so good, and everything is so good there. I mean, but the fresh pastas, they're known for, it's all fresh pasta, which I love, and they've got different sauces based on what you like, different flavors, but really, really, really good. And so definitely check it out. I mean,
well, we're getting people hungry here. Barb is getting hungry with all this talk here of food.
2 nights, not 1 night. We both did 2 nights on it, and you're saying, yeah. I mean,
I'm just showing you. No, believe me, I ate the steak the first night too.
Yeah, so it was really the polenta appetizer, right? With the truffle. I had the pasta. We also had we both got the veal. You got the one veal type, and I got the other one. I know I'm not going to say it right, so I'm not even going to try to say it. But
well, I got the Milanese. I think you got the scallopini, didn't you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was hard to say, but did a great job.
I probably didn't say it right. Heidi's going to come back to me with her list of things I didn't do right tonight.
But yeah, the food there is so good. You want to, you can't take it home. There's no doggy bag really. So, you want to eat it all, and then you have to get up and walk out, which is really difficult because it's so good. So that's the hardest part, is getting up from the chair and walking to the out. So, but luckily the ship is still not too small, but you can walk it off. And if maybe you might have a hike the next day too, like I did, 2.5 mile hike. I didn't know I was a hiker, but I'm trying to be like John Roberts from In Loop Travel. And I told him that I want a little patch for my Viking jacket, like hiker. They need to have that. So
no, yeah, I mean, you and me both. I mean,
my wife said, I did. I was like, day number 2 on the Viking Expeditions.
No, we're not. Heidi and I aren't hikers like some of our friends here join us. Thanks for joining the live and talking. We're talking about food, Mamson's. We're talking about Manfredi's, World Cafe. I think you were carb loading. Probably that's what you're doing there, right? Preparing for the hike.
Right.
Interesting question. Do you do the goat cheese? This is so Colleen. The goat cheese. We're not a fan of the cheese and the waffles. How about you, John?
I did the goat cheese on my first Viking Ocean ship. I don't like the brown goat cheese. No, it looked like peanut butter, but I'm not a fan of that.
Oh, probably too healthy. That's why we don't like it.
I did the pea soup though, and I did the success cake twice. I just pass the waffles and go right. They look pretty, but I go right to the success cake.
Well, that's success right there. Right, just go straight to the cake. Again, thanks for joining us. As you can tell, John and I love talking about cruising, love cruising together, and we can talk all night. But definitely want to see if you have other questions, either about, we talked a lot, basically everything about the ship we could, but we can still talk more. Or we've mentioned some of the Viking Ocean, because the ship does resemble more of a Viking Ocean. That's the one thing I was surprised at. You mentioned this a minute ago. that it's kind of a bigger ship. Heidi and I were on a ship that we thought would be more comparable in Tahiti that was only like 15, like about half the size of the ship, and it felt much smaller, right? So we were on a ship that was like 13, 14,000 gross tons. This is 30. So it's a pretty long ship, and there's a lot of things on there, but it's still very, the layout's easy to figure out, right? And you can get to everything relatively quickly.
Yeah, really, really nice. I think it was perfect size. Really, really loved it. For, in this case, it's purpose built for expedition, but just the overall cruise experience on that size of vessel was so nice. Really, really loved it. It's
I
nice.
actually think we love folks. Yeah, I mean, folks knows us. We sail on mega ships, so we've been on all Oasis class and all large ships for Royal and Norwegian and Carnival and Princess. But I think this is the perfect. I couldn't go any smaller than this ship. Like, so we've been on a couple other smaller ones, and I think that this is the perfect size for the itineraries it's doing. So you have enough flexibility that's not like the same thing every day. You can change it up, right?
Yeah, I loved how this ship brought us to ports, and we docked in bays and places that other mega ships can't go to. I liked how comfortable it was. Of course, the Viking service was incredible. Just being able to I just been on one of the largest ships in the world the week before, and just being able to the ease of being able to get things and access things and not have to rush and walk 30 minutes to get to your next destination to a part of the ship was so nice. Just really comfortable. It was just a great experience, and it's, the intimacy, there's no lines for anything really. I mean, it's just so comfortable. Just a great experience. Highly recommend it. Would love to go to Antarctica or the Arctic and really see that purpose-built vessel, that environment. It was nice to see it used in the Caribbean. I'll be curious to see the pictures from the Viking group and other photos, people using it in the Great Lakes. Would love to see that. I know that's a real up and coming area. But yeah, just really can't say enough good things, how comfortable it was. The crew on board, I don't know if we've touched on this yet, but
yeah,
the crew on board, absolutely incredible. And I think John and Colleen would agree. They were with us, and so nice to see you guys here. I know you're getting ready for sea trade. Just really, really exciting to have such a great crew. Totally great experience. Can't say, I mean, just from top to bottom, everybody on board were incredible.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that those are small touches. They learn your preferences. They learn who you are really fast on the ship, right? And they go above and beyond to try to accommodate you. It's the answer is never no. It might be, well, I'm not sure. Let me find out. But and they go find out. It's not like, oh, I'll find out for you. And then 2 days later, you bump into the person. You're like, did you ever check in for that for me? And you're like, who are you again? The Viking, I think, excels with their service and their attention to detail. And I mean, talk about, I think we told you a story, but real quick, folks, my wife likes a very specific type of coffee, her iced caramel lattes, and the coffee shop that makes them wasn't open until a bit later. The bar that makes them, so you can still get lattes and make them in the buffet, but they didn't have the caramel syrup. So I asked them, like, can you just put a cup of caramel syrup, like in a cup? I'll have in my room. Our room had a mini fridge. The next day, they delivered a full bottle of caramel syrup to our room so she could have it for her coffee.
Oh,
which,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, who else does that, right? I was just asking, like, can you just fill like a disposable cup? Because that's all we probably would have needed for the week. But the room service literally the next day delivered a full bottle of caramel syrup, which I almost feel bad because we used it, of course, as much as we could. But I mean, that's kind of the level of attention to detail you even get in the expedition product. So I can't imagine trying to go to regions like this and not have that level of service, right? If you're going to go all the way there, you want to get back to the ship and know that this is how they're going to take care of you and that they're going to get to know your name. They'll know your favorite drink, and they'll, genuinely seem interested in talking to you and getting to know you. It kind of has a family atmosphere, right?
Yeah, and like you said, if you're gonna, I mean, it wasn't long ago where you didn't have these options. You didn't have, it's expedition cruising is really the big thing this year. Everybody's talking about it in the cruising industry, and now you have Viking with their first vessel, and you can go to these places and have these amazing, challenging experiences. In such a comfortable environment, and it just did. We just can't say enough that this did not exist for Viking and many other companies. you know. And I know John has a question here.
Yeah, I don't know. So I want to say it's cold then hot, isn't it? But there's a 3 temperatures, as John points out. It's cold, tepid, so medium, and then hot. But I don't know. Do you know, John? The other John, do you know the proper order of going through these pools?
So I know I saw John's picture, and I thought those were my abs, by the way. I saw John's picture. I was like, that looks like me. Then I realized, well, that guy's a little taller. It has to be John. So, but I didn't know those were plunge pools back there. I didn't realize they were different temperatures.
Oh yeah. So if you look, they have. So I'm pretty sure if you're looking at them, so you're at the back of the ship looking forward. I'm pretty sure it goes cold, medium, hot.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
from my right to left, so from starboard to port. I don't know. I mean, the answer is I can make it up.
Covering my bike and missed that chapter, I guess.
Well, not many people. I mean, what we heard was the cold started off cold in the morning, but by the day, especially in the Caribbean, right, it's going to naturally warm up a little bit. But we're going to get on that for our book report in the loop, and I would say it's cold to hot. That's what I'd go with.
I don't know. I saw John in there. Let's see.
I saw him.
John has to know.
So, Kurt's thanking us again. Kurt, we actually get to sail with Kurt and his wife on Celebrity Edge, the first cruise back last year. So we got to meet them. They're a great couple. Their travel agents do a lot of traveling. Thanking us for the conversation. He was on Apex and he's on Lure. He's going all over the place.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us. And then Colleen's echoing John's statements, and I agree too about the amazing service on Viking. There's not enough good things you can say about they treat you. So I'm trying to think, did we miss anything? There's 6 decks. We've talked about, the one part, we did talk about the Ala, but behind the Ala, we didn't touch on this real quick, the Finse Terrace there, that little back area. It's this really cool viewing area back there that has fire pits. I thought that was a little underutilized, right? In the Caribbean, I think that's more akin to like when you're sailing somewhere a little bit more scenic. What do you think?
I thought it was great. I know some people wish there was like a bar back there if we were going to be critical at all. Some people wanted to spend more time back there. And I heard some people say they wish there was like some bar service. And
that might have been us. Always looking for a bar. I thought I heard someone say there should be a bar back here. Sure, it's not. Maybe other people.
I just heard that. I'm just the messenger. But but I thought it was a beautiful space. It's nice. It's really, really beautiful. And I know, just to be so close to the ship's wake in the back there was just really, really cool. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it takes great photos, right? So I'm sure John has on his social Cruise Addicts photos from there. We may have captured him taking a photo from there that we haven't posted yet. We're holding that onto that one for a rainy day. But I felt like they had these fire pits, they kind of glow at night, and they have this rock formation. It's just a beautiful space, and I was like, what else could they do with it? I'm thinking Great Lakes. I'm thinking like acoustic guitar person out there, like sailing by all the U.S. and Canada and checking things out and just enjoying it. But we'll see. This is the first season, obviously, they're doing. The ship's only been sailing since middle of January. Yeah,
and I think that's exactly what this is. That whole back area is kind of this multi-purpose space where there's so many opportunities to do so many different things, and they're going to use it to the best of its ability once they kind of, really test this product out and expand on it. And of course, as they travel, they're getting feedback, and they'll adjust. And did you see what Heidi wrote here? Heidi said, "No, it's hot to cold, isn't it, Don?" And then John says, "I think it might be cold then hot."
That's what I thought. I'm pretty sure when you do it on the ocean
controversy
ship,
is continuing. This is a serious controversy we have here.
I'm pretty sure on the ocean ships, when you go to the Nordic spa, the traditional Nordic thing is they tell you to go into the sauna first, then go into the plunge pool. So have you done that on ocean ships?
I think it's hot then cold.
I thought it was hot then cold. Yeah. Is that what I said, or what did I say?
It's like shocking your body, like wow. So,
did I not say hot to cold?
Heidi says no, hot to cold, isn't it?
Sure.
John says no, it might be cold than hot.
Oh.
And then we got more.
We're just making false fights here. What is this, a reality TV show? We're just making up like arguments.
Let's do the face. Ready for the face? Ready?
Anyway, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's hot to cold then. I was wrong. But it's definitely lined up from starboard to port. Cold then hot, I'm pretty sure. So oh well, too much fun. I know we're a little bit over an hour. We appreciate folks joining us. I want to make sure that we get to everyone's questions. Now we're just getting silly. I think I'm trying to say I don't see any more questions there. Let's see. We talked about all the public spaces. We talked about the dining. Touched on the rooms. We mentioned a little bit with entertainment. We talked about the hide. And in the special operation boats and submarines. Am I missing anything?
No, I think we've covered many of it. Some excursions. I guess without a question for you, what is your 2 things that you love the most about this type of expedition cruise with aboard this ship? If you had 2 things.
2 things.
Yes.
I think so. The 2 things I like is that you're able to go to different places, like, and just kind of get there and do stuff, right? It's not on the bigger ships, like it takes a little bit longer to do stuff and you wait in line to scan out. And there's really none of that with these ships. It's like one day in Virgin Gorda, the next day you're in St. Lucia, then you're in St. Kitts. And I know those islands are pretty close together, but it's kind of like you get to a new spot, you drop anchor, you get on a boat, you're there, and you just can get off and do stuff. And a lot of it's included. So that's one of the best parts for me was doing that. And I think the second best part is that service probably, right? People come back, they know your name, they know you are, you go right up, you want your ice caramel latte, double espresso. And they even feel bad for you to stand at the bar. They say, don't go sit down. Like, well, we're just going to go sit down. We'll bring it to you.
Where are you? Where are you, Mr. John? Where are you? Sit there. They sit and they're like, okay.
They don't want you to stand.
Sit down.
It's like, I can stand for a minute. There's no one here. I'll stand. I don't mind. But yeah, I think that makes you just feel better because you do have some long days and you need to go through certain steps and things like that. The other thing I would say, Viking is still one of the cruise lines that has a little bit more safety protocols in place than say other cruise lines. And we appreciate that, right? They're making sure everyone's safe and healthy. They're abiding by their own level of protocols, which includes they still have some daily testing on board. And they require masks only until your tests come back. So there is some of that. And I think everyone on board appreciates that, knowing you're truly in a bubble on a Viking ship. Other people used to say a bubble, right? You're truly in a bubble there. And especially when you're in Antarctica and you're like the only people together for 2 weeks, like you can rest assured that they're on top of making sure everyone's going to be safe.
And another breaking news here. Colleen McDaniel says it's hot, then hotter when she does it. And she is, she's the authority here.
We'll default to her. Women are always right. So
yeah, Colleen says it that it's hot to hotter. We're done. We're done here. Done. But to touch on what you said, I don't know if we actually talked about it. Should we back to when we first got on the ship? We had to get tested when we arrived in Barbados, right? So before I flew from Miami to Barbados, I had to get a test that morning, right?
Right.
So many hours between, depending on when you're coming from. Then when we got on board, we had to get an antigen test. So we had the nasal swab antigen test. Then once we were cleared in the restaurant by the doctor, we were sent to our cabin and we did a PCR test with the sputum and to place that outside our door. We had to wear a mask until we were cleared that we had passed that test, but we were free to roam the ship and explore. And then it was actually on the app, or the TV would tell you if you had passed the test. And then every day we had to have that PCR test turned out by about 8 in the morning or so. You'd put it out by your door. And so that was every day. And, with the Viking group, my Viking group and everything like that, so many people talk about this PCR test. And a lot of people wish the testing would go away. And it's very controversial. And people, they've added masks again on the river cruising because there's a little bit of a flare up in Europe going on, just like Singapore's having some issues. But I personally feel that I like that the daily testing was going on. I think it's basically a security blanket that if something were to start where I get it and then Don would get it, I think ignorance is bliss in a lot of ways, but I don't think it's very blissful if you have a outbreak on a cruise ship, which could potentially shut down the industry again. So I'm very, I appreciative that Viking actually spent the money to have PCR labs on their ships. They're the first ones to do that. They're also the first ones to shut down voluntarily, and they've been very proactive and still are, where they're doing things that other lines aren't doing. I think it's to protect their guests. It might be an inconvenience, and a lot of people are hesitant to travel, but I think it's a great. I think information is powerful, and if you have one or two couples on a river vessel or an ocean vessel or an expedition vessel that have to be quarantined because they have some type of they're showing positive, I think it's a great to be proactive rather than just to turn a blind eye and have a bigger incident where the vessel could be out of service for weeks and months, or we have to, or worse. So I'm very appreciative, and I think it's great. I think it's a good peace of mind for travel today, and I don't mind that they're taking the extra steps. And
I mean, I agree with you. I do agree with you that it's a balancing act. So let's all be honest, right? Viking caters to a little bit older clientele. You're on ships longer. Their itineraries tend to be longer than your traditional 7-day Caribbean.
Are you calling me old?
No, you're young. You're young for their demographic. Listen, I love Viking. I would do Viking all day long if I could get the vacation time off from the full-time job. And I know I married a rich older lady, but because they are kind of expensive. But I think if you're in close quarters, because their ships are small, especially river ships, what do they hold? Like 180 people, 190, 180?
190 max, yeah.
Yeah, 190 a max. And you're next to those people for 2 weeks. And every day you're going somewhere new. So you're interacting with those local communities. I think they're doing a responsible thing. And you need to be flexible now. We're still not out of this. And people want to pretend like the last 2 years, I don't know, were just a bad dream. So having masks where appropriate, or where the local governments or that country or destination requires it, and even if they don't, I think on our trip, right, they said they asked us to wear the masks ashore just to be safe. A lot of our tours were outside. When we were ever in transit, we definitely wore our masks. The safari bus was an open air bus. We didn't, the tour we were on with you that kind of went to all those places. But you were outside so much, right? As you mentioned, you're not stuck in some large bus for hours doing stuff. But if they ask me to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask, and I'll take the test. And I know Viking's looking out for us, and also where you go. They respect all those places they go, because they're there a lot. They have in Europe, better than me, right? All those docking spots, they have 80 plus. They have, well, across the country, across the world, not just Europe, but between all the destinations, they have 80 river ships. So these ships are sailing these places multiple times a week, and you want to build that respect for those people, for those folks, in case something does pop up. You're not bringing it somewhere.
Yeah, it would just take one. We all know they would just take one outbreak from any major vessel and Viking. And you could turn a blind eye and just not know anything. We don't know anything about that, and everybody gets off after 7 days on a traditional cruise. But Viking's being proactive, and I'm all for it. I mean, I think people want to feel safe. They want to feel that people are being proactive. We might not like that that's happening. No one likes that there's a flare-up in Europe right now. No one likes that there was a flare-up in Barbados before we arrived. So that's why they were really strict, and they were just now backing off some of those things. So we're going to places and we're doing things that other people, where places these local places have been affected. So it's just it's still a little challenging, but I think it's what we have to do for right now, and hopefully this will be a go away, and we can do things without it in the future. But right now, it's better to be safe than sorry, I think.
I agree. I think, and that's a good way. So I don't see any more questions. I thank folks for joining us. But I think that's a good way to put it. If you take a Viking, whether it's river expeditions or ocean, you can rest assured that Viking they're monitoring the situations, and you need to be flexible if they input, safety protocols that you weren't expecting. Definitely expect the testing. They're going to test all summer, right? I mean, I can't imagine they're going to pull that.
I think it's going to be for a long time until until they have, until things change drastically. And I don't know when that'll be. Maybe there'll be some over-the-counter, some kind of medication which will stomp it out. But it's still lethal to some people. It's still very contagious. It's nice that some of the symptoms are getting lesser. I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, so-and-so had the sniffles. but it only takes that one person on that one cruise ship that'll make the headlines that could just ruin the industry. So if they need to be proactive to protect their businesses and protect their passengers in the short term, then great.
No, yeah, no, I agree. And the safest I feel we've been on, that was our 13th trip, I think, since the restart. And these protocols have come and gone, but that would be our second Viking trip since. So we went on Viking Ocean, now Viking Expeditions, and they've been the most consistent with their protocols. And I've always felt safe, and I always think that they're also very transparent, right? They tell things. We had a little incident in our Iceland trip. They let us know what's going on. They try to keep guests informed and keep us safe. So I know. So I really appreciate your time. I respect your time. Let folks know if they don't already know. Obviously, it's Cruise Addicts, but you have a Viking group on Facebook. Folks, check out, right? And you're also putting together a group cruise for the river cruises, right?
Yeah, we have a special Grand European 15-night Basel to Amsterdam, I believe it is. It's a special group cruise just for Viking Cruise members. So if you go to Facebook and you want to join the Viking Cruises, just search Viking Cruises. It's a Facebook group. You'll see my smiling face. It's also, we're working with Michael Consoli as well. He's our travel agent for our group. And so please join the group. We've got 31,000 members this week, and we'd love to have you as well. And please join us at cruiseaddicts.com. And all our social media channels are at Cruise Addicts, one word. Such a pleasure to be here with Don. We had such a great time on this journey, and him and his wife Heidi are just really, really wonderful to be with. And so we had a great time. It's great to see Colleen and John. So nice that they joined us here. They're just wonderful people, and I was able to have dinner with them as well. Just really, really great people. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the information Don and I brought with you today. Hopefully we can do this again. I know we want to do more live streams, but thank you, Don. And can't say enough good things about you.
Oh, I'm going to blush now, John. Thank you. It is called, what is your group called? Viking Cruises? What's it? I forgot the name of the group I'm in.
It's called Viking Cruises.
Viking Cruise. So don't forget to search Viking Cruise on Facebook for John's group. Check out the special Viking River Cruise that they have, and that's September of next year, right?
Yeah, September 2023, 50 nights Grand European. Got a great special rate. Our goal actually is we want to book, because we actually have an exclusive. We want to fill up the entire Viking Longship just with our group. So that's our goal. We're trying to do it. It's still early, so we're trying to get more bookings. We're trying to fill up the whole ship. We have an exclusive. We actually, it's almost like a full charter, so we can actually book this whole Viking Longship just for our group members. So if you're watching this, please get along. It's starting only $5,000 per person, includes air, everything, of course, Viking exclusiveness and the service. Why do two Viking cruises when you can actually do the Danube and the Rhine? Grand European, it's the best of everything in one Viking River cruise at a great rate, only $5,000 starting. So including air. Does it get any better than that?
That's pretty. I mean, that's a great deal considering everything that Viking includes. And I think we were actually supposed to do. I'm pretty sure that's the itinerary we were actually going to do, July 2020. Well, of course we know.
Yeah, I've done the Danube, I've done the Rhine, and now this kind of does both, and it does some other amazing places. You get to see all of Europe at a great low rate. Includes air, includes, I mean, beer and wines included. All the tours are included. You have optional ones as well. Why not do it? You get to cruise with me. You get to cruise with Michael Consoli. Hopefully Don will come. We need to get John and Colleen to come too. It'll be the best of the best of the best.
I will admit, I don't know what my calendar is next year. I got to survive this year. Like, it's been really crazy. We're really fortunate and happy to be doing this. And obviously, you know this too. Travel's really come back, and we're here to promote cruising. We love cruising. It's the first vacation Heidi and I ever took together, and we obviously are building this brand because of our passion for cruising. And we're just this year alone is pretty crazy. So I don't have technically anything booked next year. So we'll have to. I'll talk Heidi more. She's not. I don't know if she's as big as a river ships I am. I love the idea of you're there, you just literally walk right off the ship. The river ships, right? You walk right off.
If you haven't done you kind of got a taste of it, but it's really like a boutique hotel, and it brings you to the city centers of all these amazing cities of Europe. You don't need to. A lot of times people that do European tours have to spend a lot of times on trains, planes, automobiles, buses, going from different cities, different hotels. Here you unpack once, and you get to explore all of Europe, many different rivers and waterways in the comfort that only Viking can give you, really. We love river cruising. It's just the coolest thing. I highly recommend this course in September. But one of my favorites is the Viking Christmas, or not the Viking, but the Christmas market cruising. It's a small season from November to December. The best. Get some Glühwein. You're out. You know it does the same sites that the popular tours via the Danube or the Rhine, but it's because it's an off-season cruise in the wintertime. There's no crowds. So you get to see all these amazing sites. You get to experience local culture, the local Christmas markets, which is kind of like a fair, and they're usually in the shadows of the cathedrals. And you get it all to yourself because the crowds that are there in the high season of the summer are not there in the low season of the Christmas market time. So it's the best. I think the best. And I know, like in September when we're going, I guess is another great time because it's still warm for the Grand European Tour. So all these things come into play as far as you have to plan. You don't want to go in a high season and have to fight crowds. You want to go at the perfect time, and so highly recommend that.
No, I do. We do definitely want to do all those. There's never a lack of things we want to do, places we want to go. I'll paraphrase, like there's a classic, like basically saying that the more you travel, the more you realize you haven't seen nearly as much, right? The more people you talk to who travel, the more places you learn you want to go. So we'll take a look at it. We'll see. I know, but yeah. So check out John's group on Facebook, Cruise Addicts all over social. If you're watching this still and you want to follow, it's at Eat Sleep Cruise, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, even doing some TikTok. I'm working on my dance moves. So not really.
And remember, this is going to be recorded, so we're going to have it. I'm going to put it on the Facebook channel or the Cruise Addicts channels and everything like that, so you can watch it on all our different social media things. Leave some comments below. We'll both monitor both of them, and we'll try to answer any questions that come up there. But I can speak for Don. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for the wonderful comments. We got some of the best viewers here. We got some celebrities in that comments there. Serious.
They just sneak into the theater. It's like they just walk in, drop a couple of comments, and they just walk right out. So
yes, even Heidi showed up.
That's what I thought you were talking about. I don't know who else you would be referencing.
Heidi showed up.
Well, I had to say something wrong just to make sure she clarified that I was wrong. So anyone else watching this, as John mentioned, if you're watching on Facebook or replay on YouTube.
Did she offer any water?
Huh?
Did she offer you any water?
Any water? I had some water.
Water?
I had water. Thanks again, John. I really appreciate it. Love talking cruising and talk all night. And as John mentioned, we'll definitely monitor comments. If you have any questions, just tag us on social, right? Just hit at Cruise Addicts or at Eat Sleep Cruise if you have questions about Viking. And we'll have to do this again sometime.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Bye, John. Thanks.